Yo, guys, what's going on? Coach Jamie here, and I am so excited to have you here listening to my podcast, Make Time for Your Mind with Coach Jamie, where we will be talking about all things mindset, vulnerability, personal development, ways we can become better individuals. And sometimes in that process, we'll get heavy, sometimes we'll have fun, and sometimes I will be challenging your perspective. The goal, no matter what, though, is to leave you better than you were before you tuned in. So, with that being said, let's dive in. What's up, guys? Welcome back. And if this is your first time tuning in, thank you for being here. I am excited to say that we are halfway through season 2 already. Holy cow, where is time going? So today I want to talk to you guys about a post that I actually made recently. And the quote that I put with it is, "We have a tendency of giving too much credit to the lies in our heads than we do the facts that are sitting right in front of us." It's so interesting because we live in such a woke culture, right? Where it's speaking your truth and knowing yourself. And I think that that's all super important. But the lack of awareness is something that I don't think is discussed enough. And so that's what I'm kind of hoping to do here today, and to enlighten you guys along the way with that. And I think I've even shared this on another podcast episode, but there was a quote from the book, The Power of Now. And he says, "Do you control your thoughts, or do your thoughts control you?" And my first reaction was like, well, of course my thoughts control me. Like, it's kind of how it works, right? Like I can only respond to the thoughts that come out of my brain. I don't have any control over that. And that's actually kind of a big pivotal point in why I even became a coach, and why I was able to grow through a lot of the things that I did. What it was, because it took for me to acknowledge that I actually did have the ability to take control of my thoughts. And so I want to make sure that you guys know that that's just as possible for you. Another layer to that I think that happens is when it comes to our emotions. Our emotions definitely play a large impact on where our thoughts go, right? Like, so we think this thought, but already there's a specific emotion that's attached to it. And then we are just cycling that through over and over in our brains. And then that just constantly becomes our reality. And so when we say, I just know myself and I know how I respond to this, yes, that may be true, but a lot of that still could be lies. Like, you can't believe everything that you think and feel. And I think that that's one thing that's happened is, again, in this woke culture, we're starting to believe that that is the 100% truth all the time because it's who we are. And that's not the truth. An example that I want to kind of give here is, I remember there was one time that I think I actually spoke on this on another episode, but, or maybe it was another podcast that I was on, but I remember that I was getting around to go out for the night, and I left, was probably about 45 minutes away from my home, and all of a sudden this thought popped into my brain, and I'm like, I forgot to shut off my curling iron. I know for an absolute fact that I didn't shut my curling iron off. And instantly with that was the fear that I didn't shut it off, what was going to happen to my dogs, the fact that I was just not being responsible and was just so much in a hurry that I couldn't even believe that I didn't take time to recognize if I actually unplugged the curling iron out, right? Like, my thoughts are spiraling out of control. And I knew for absolute certainty that curling iron was still on. And so I ended up calling what's the word I'm looking for? The project manager, or whatever it is, the manager of the complex. And I was like, I am so sorry to bother you, but I am like already way too far away from home and there's no way I can turn around. I'm like, but I forgot to shut my curling iron off. Like, can you go into my place and shut my curling iron off? And so she ends up texting me back and like, yeah, I'll check into it. She ends up texting me a little bit later on as I'm sitting here reminding you I'm freaking out because I'm too far away to be able to turn back and go home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my place is going to catch on fire. My dogs are going to die. And then I'm going to be blamed for this entire, complex on just my lack of paying attention. Right. And the woman texts me, or property, I said project, property manager ends up texting me back and she goes, Jamie, not only was your curling iron off, but it wasn't even plugged in. But I knew my truth. I knew my truth that thought was accurate, that the curling iron was still on and that I was putting everybody in danger. One, it's not a bad thing that at least that was my reaction, is to want to make sure I could fix the problem, right? Emotions aren't a bad thing, but it's being willing to see a situation and recognize what can be true and what can't be true. And so going back to all this about how you can't believe all of the lies in your brain, sometimes that's simply your insecurity speaking. That's simply because you are in an emotional state in that moment. Maybe you're even just simply tired. And so you're shorter fused to something, or maybe that you're sad or you're anxious about something. And now everything else in your life feels that it has to be happening right now. Right. So the thoughts and the emotions are going to play in a very, quite literally is going to be your reality. Your perception is your reality. So what are you believing about yourself that just isn't true? And this is kind of where my call to action is going to come in as I'm still like navigating this podcast episode with you, is I want you to actually just like sit down and write out whatever that truth is that you're believing about yourself, right? So if it's, I'm a failure, or if it's, I'm not consistent, I'm never going to accomplish this, whatever it may be, right? I want you to write down that fact that you know about yourself. And I want you to have the opportunity to see it on paper for what it is. And then I want you to challenge that fact. Like, what ways can you prove that is not a true statement, right? What other ways can you view that same situation, right? So going back to the whole, I'm a failure. Okay, that's a pretty powerful statement to believe is true, but it's a lie, because I guarantee you could probably list out at least 10 other things in your life that you've actually accomplished something. Like, hey, I woke up today without hitting snooze. That's a win. I didn't fail at waking up this morning. Oh, hey, I told myself I had to go to work today. You successfully made it to work today. Did you want to be there? No, maybe not. But you successfully got there, so you're not failing, right? And so when you're able to kind of pull back that and call BS on the lies that you're feeding your brain, you are now more likely to experience the truth that actually sits right in front of you. Another great way to do this is to like picture that somebody else that you know, love, and care about was telling you something that in their brain you could tell that they believed was completely true. And you're like, no, I see you every single day. That's a lie. You say that you're not doing this, but I see you're doing this every day, right? So I want you to be able to take control of your thoughts and allow yourself to see a situation for what it actually is, because not everything that you think and feel is true. All right. Emotions are temporary. I would even challenge you to take the same truth that's happening in your head, and I want you to perceive this so-called truth when you're in a different emotional state. So write down the truth of, I'm a failure, when you're in freak out mode, when you're in a bad mood, when you're angry. And then all of a sudden, when you're having a moment of you're being in a good day, like you're having a good day, or like you're feeling confident because something good, maybe you just got a compliment from somebody. And then I want you to go back and I want you to read that. I guarantee you're going to read that phrase differently based off the emotional state that you're in. Okay, so we have a couple layers here. One, first and foremost, you have to write down this so-called truth. Two, you have to be willing to see it through a different lens, and you have to be willing to fact check it, right? Remember the show Mythbusters? Like, let's find all of the ways that we can prove that this is just a myth and it is not fact, right? Give yourself the space to process that and see it for what else it could actually be. And then third is to learn how to neutralize the emotion that tends to be attached to your thoughts. Now, this is something that doesn't just happen overnight. And I think that's another reason why just a lot of people don't end up doing it, or why we fall victim to our own way of thinking and our own insecurities all the time, is because like it's hard. It's hard. And so to be able to remain intentional and putting the work in on that level of hard, a lot of people won't do. But you, my friend, are different. And so today I would like to encourage you to do that very thing. So I want you to start off. This is my call to action for you today. As always, when I give these, it means the world to me when you send them over, because one, it's awesome to know that you're listening and that it's making a difference in your life. But then it's also a layer of accountability to be able to help you kind of work through some of the stuff that's happening in your life on your own time, and not just because somebody else is influencing you on this specific decision or telling you how you should think and feel about it, right? So my call to action for you is to write down these so-called truths that are happening. Play with this exercise. It could be something super, super simple, but I want you to write down a truth, and I want to encourage you to find another way how else this statement could be true. And or I want you to write down all of the ways that initial statement is false and it is in fact not the truth. Then finally, I want you to pivot and I want you to place another truth in that position. Bonus points if you actually allow yourself to process this while you are experiencing different emotions. But let me remind you that not everything you think and feel is the absolute truth. So take power in that today, that just because you think it, it doesn't mean it is your reality. So I hope this gives you just a great opportunity to shift your perspective today. Share with somebody else that you believe would benefit from trying out this exercise. And until next time, with love and accountability, Coach Jamie out.